What is up, everyone? Barricade here, and bringing guys another episode of Gears of War lore. Today we're going to be talking about issue number 9 of the Gears of War comic book. This is part 1 of 5 of the Barren story arc. So let's get right into it, guys. It's actually quite interesting, and before we actually get into it, I just want to say that right off the bat, this story so far, even in the very first issue, is actually quite dark, so be warned. So to start us off here, we see that Delta Squad is actually going through what is known as a MOUT, as they call it, which simply stands for Military Operations in Urban Terrain, which simply basically means a huge ass battle in an urban area where people normally live, so like in a city or town. But luckily for them, they're fighting in a deserted town, so it's not really anyone they have to worry about dying, because as they say in the comic, every civilian is already dead. So that's kind of like a messed up thing. So they're fighting, but they're completely covered and outnumbered, and they need help from the squad that supposedly already cleared this area, but obviously that's not true. So they're just trying to hold off while the squad comes to help them. And we can see these two gears here wearing helmets, which actually look pretty damn cool. Actually, I really would think this armor would look pretty cool to have in Gears of War 4, to be honest. I like the way the guy's helmet is kind of like halfway, like it covers half his face. That's actually unique. We never saw anything like that. But anyways, we see that they're fighting and they need help because they're getting pinned down by snipers. And the only way they can get out of this is if someone can throw a nade on the top building where the snipers are hiding. But they have no nades, so they're completely like screwed, right? Nope, this gear goes out of their way to scave the area, jump from one building to the other, shoot a ticker, and completely kill all the snipers with an explosion like a total badass. So they're sitting there in awe, like thinking, holy shit, you know, now's our chance. So they go out of the way and kill all the rest of the grubs. And Dom sits here and says, damn, that dude is hardcore. The gear from that squad says, dude, you mean Alex? And it turns out that this dude is actually not a dude. It's actually Alex Brand. And we can see that Dom and Jace are both in awe with the fact that this woman is such a total badass. But she doesn't take shit from guys. She definitely does not, because we can see here that Jace states that a guy was trying to hit on her and called her Foxy. And the dude woke up the next day with a dead heart leech bleeding all over his chest. And the one thing I just want to point out is kind of funny is that Jace is like, she's not bad on the eyes, right? And Dom's like, I got a girl. But yeah, she's smoking, man. I like the way Dom like said that. He like totally brought up the fact that, you know, obviously Maria's his only girl in his world. But yeah, he can admit the fact that she's hot. So this is kind of funny. Next thing we see here is that Marcus, Dom, Cole, Baird, Jace, and Alex Brand have all been squatted up here to research a distress signal coming from G-Lane. G-Lane is actually one of the birthing factories that, in fact, Alex Brand was born in. And so while they're both sergeants, Marcus is still going to be the lead in this mission, but she will be the leading scout to kind of give all the information they need about this area. And then one little funny part here is we can see that while they're discussing the mission ahead of them, we see that Cole is being a little bit of his cocky self, you know, talking about the fact that Alex Brand is hot and all this stuff. And then we see that Cole, of course, says here, when there's a lady who needs love, who else you gonna call but the Cole train? And then right when he says that, Alex Brand is walking right behind him, and to be a jerk, she screams, incoming, and it scares the shit out of him, making him drop his beer. She jacks it from him and says thanks. So now he realized that he kind of fucked up with this girl. He can't really act like Mr. Tough Guy, Mr. Lover Boy with this girl, because she will fuck you up. But I just thought I'd bring up that part because it was a pretty enjoyable, funny moment. The whole point of this mission, though, is that they're going to G-Lane to once again investigate the distress signal, because there can be women and children living in that factory, even though it was overrun by locusts at one point. But they still want to go investigate just in case to see if they can preserve the human population that they may need to save, because everyone is dying, they need more people. So if there's a group of women and children out there, they're going to try to save them. And the one thing that they're talking about here is we see that Baird is a little skeptic about it, saying, oh yeah, of course, there's going to be a bunch of women and children, they're still all surviving, of course. And Dom's like, no, you got to be faithful, you got to believe in it. And one other reason why he's so into the idea of going into this camp to try to save these women is because he thinks that Maria might be there. And while he's sitting there looking at a picture of Maria, Alex Brand tells him, well, she's probably better off with a locust instead of being at that farm. And it's kind of, in a sense, true. I mean, obviously we saw what the locust did to her in the games, but the camping, the birthing farms, they're not the greatest things ever, and this is where the comic kind of gets a little dark. So basically what the whole point of this birthing farms was, as it implies, to increase the human population. They would either artificially inseminate women or they would rape them. And regardless, they were just simply trying to increase the human population. And the women that had the most babies were pretty much regarded as, as she says here, prize chickens laying the most eggs. And the warden of this facility was a serial rapist that would also rape Alex Brand. The really dark thing about it here is when she's talking about the warden, she says, I have no idea how old I was the first time. 12 maybe? So she was a young girl and this guy was already raping her. So that's the thing that was kind of like, whoa, like that's really messed up. And she, she's young, she's going through this horrible thing, and she just kind of didn't know she just didn't understand it, it's kind of a realistic thing. She didn't understand what was going on. She knew it was wrong, but she just, I don't know, she just, it's a kid, it's something like that a kid shouldn't be going through. And they kept trying, and she wouldn't get pregnant, and when she hit 14 years old, they tried to artificially inseminate her, and that didn't work. And the thing that was really kind of messed up too is she tried to fight back, try to get up, and of course they just simply tie her down, try to fatten her up, and they just keep her and all the other women in these farms like cattle. They're horribly miserable. And the thing that's even worse is if you can't get pregnant from the artificial tactics, then they go with more traditional means, as she says, and they let the most decorated soldiers, the most awarded soldiers, rape the women first. And she kind of went through this horrible life for a long time. She was, like it said, around 12 years old, and when she finally became 18 years old, they realized that she was barren and she could not have children. So they let her go, and they forced her to join a boot camp so she can eventually become a gear. Shortly after this, she tried to bring to light what this facility was doing. She tried to, pretty much let everyone know. And the thing that was really messed up is the COG kind of just swept it under the rug and didn't really care. Like, from what it almost sounded like, it seemed like the facility was kind of manned by these people independently, and the COG supposedly didn't know, but when she brought it to light, they're just kind of like, oh, okay. Like, they didn't really care or do anything about it. So it's kind of like maybe they did know, and they just kind of pretended they didn't. I don't know. It's kind of messed up. And shortly after all this, she found out that the facility Jelaine was overrun by locusts, and a lot of the children and women died. And she kind of had this weird bittersweet moment where she was, obviously sad that these people are dying, these women and children that she knew died, but at the same time she felt almost like it was a release for them, and now they were in a better place, no longer being tortured by these bad men. And the one thing that was kind of crazy is one thing she pointed out in her little backstory here. She said that the most decorated soldiers were the ones that got to rape women, and she knows that Marcus Phoenix is someone that was heavily decorated and had a lot of awards and medals and etc. And I really like this one part right here where she kind of confronts him about it, because she thinks he knew about it and was one of the people that kind of swept it under the rug. And I really like this little confrontation right here. She says, all the medals they've given you, I'm sure you know about Jelaine. Marcus says, I don't, not personally. She says, so you're a liar and a bastard. Like, kind of trying to say, like, yeah, you did know and you're just trying to play it off. And he says, look, there's two ways to win this war. Make gears faster or kill grubs faster. I'm a lot better at the second one. So yeah, fine, I'm a bastard, but I'm not a liar. So basically just telling her, yeah, I may be one of those decorated soldiers, but I didn't know about this. I have nothing to do with it. So don't lump me in with these freaking sickos. So that's the one thing I really like, that he kind of pretty much put her in her place, and even she kind of had a face like, oh, okay, kind of like, my bad, you know. So it kind of, he basically shut that down real quick. And next thing we see is they're going to Jelaine, and we can see it is pretty much a hellhole. The whole place is completely destroyed, a lot of dead bodies, pretty much what you would expect from an area that was overrun by locusts. They're scouting the area, and they make it to one of the major buildings here that housed a lot of the women and children, and they follow the signal, and they go through one of the wards only to find a massive amount of dead women, obviously killed by the locust horde. But while they're looking at the dead bodies, they also see the horrible situation that was these birthing farms, and they kind of give their own personal opinions about how family and children and parents should truly be. Cole over here starting it off with him saying that he hates how kids don't get to be kids anymore, everyone has to grow up. Barren kind of talking about how he's happy that no one bugs him to have kids anymore because, well, his parents are dead and they're more concerned about the war now. Dom talking about how he loved being a father, and when it's taken away, it's, you know, obviously a bad thing. And then Alex Brand gives her opinion about it, saying that people shouldn't be brought up this way, you know, they shouldn't be created from machines and rape and torture. And then Jace kind of completing it off here with saying that he remembers his family and his parents, and while he has a very vague memory of them, he still feels warm and comfortable when he thinks about them. He remembers their warmth and their love, and he wishes he could remember what it was like. And Mark is kind of concluding this little discussion by saying, you know, not everyone has a good father and a good mother, and regardless of your upbringing, the really thing that really matters now is we just need soldiers, is what he says. And right when he says that, he gets cut off by someone hiding in the darkness saying, more soldiers? Soldiers are the last thing we need here. And we can see a group of women, which are the survivors of this camp, that simply live here as stranded. And this is where the issue ends. So we're going to see what happens next in the very next issue, Barren Part 2 of the Gears of War comics. So if you guys like this video, please definitely hit that like button and subscribe and tell me what you guys think. Overall, this comic series and this particular issue is pretty dark. It kind of brings a whole new light on the COG and what they were doing, you know, behind the scenes. It's really messed up. And I feel like their actions were definitely not justified. This was very inhumane and wrong. And in a sense, it was probably a blessing for these women that the locusts came and overrun the facility. But anyways, guys, if you guys like this video, once again, hit that like button, subscribe, tell me what you guys think, and thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see my most recent Gears of War video, hit that link on the left. If you want to see any of my other content, hit that link on the right. Thanks for watching, guys.